Hey, what is up? This is the Leafs Convo, presented by Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. I'm NJ in LDN. My man MIB is in BLO. We're going at it yet again. We can't wait for this crazy regular season to end. It just seems like it goes on, and it's a shortened season. However, the Leafs are on their ascent to where? Who knows? 5-1 win over the Vancouver Knuckleheads, 5 straight victories, 5 games to go in the 56, and we progress forward, Mike. The question is, to where? Good morning.
Good morning, Norm. Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's certain things that are sort of locked in place with a little under 2 weeks to go in the regular season. One, the Leafs, barring a major collapse, will finish in first in the North Division, and Edmonton will likely finish in second. They're 5 points up on Winnipeg with a game in hand. The question now is, will Winnipeg finish in third place, and will Montreal finish in fourth? And I think a lot of people are looking forward to, not because they think that Montreal will be easy to beat, but looking forward to the first Leafs-Habs playoff series since 1979. The way the Habs have played lately, which is they've been accumulating points, and the way the Jets have played lately, which is losing 6 in a row, they throw that for a loop. So the next 2 weeks, really, in a way, the Leafs have a way of determining who they want to play in the first round of the playoffs, and that's not exactly a position you want to be in, because I'm sure that one team can use it as bulletin board material. But if the Leafs beat Montreal 2 of the 3 games, or even all 3 of the 3 games this upcoming week, then they'll probably play the Habs in the playoffs. And if they give them points, or if the Habs earn points, then it could be the toughest first round match you could imagine, which is the Winnipeg Jets. I don't care if they're slumping right now. That's a team I don't want to face in first round.
This is the combo, Norm and Mike. So the Leafs have the Habs for 3. We'll play playoff style hockey. The Habs hoping to, over the course of the 3 games, play well enough to avoid playing the Leafs in the first round of the playoffs. Oh, the intrigue, Mike.
Well, I mean, see, I don't know whether the Leafs are going to sort of, to use a sort of goofy expression, play balls out in the three games, because they have to be concerned with their own house. And you saw what they did on Thursday against Vancouver. They sat Foligno, they sat Riley and Muzzin, they gave them a rest. And they sat Jack Campbell in favor of David Riddick. Now, I think that that's going to continue in at least 1 or maybe 2 of the Montreal games, where they give Tavares a night off, or they give Nylander a night off, or they give Spezza and Thornton some time off. TJ Brodie, who you said has been a horse this year, give him a night off. I think they're going to do that. And I also think that they're sort of, not to say that they're not going to play not to win, but I do think that they're going to, sort of not put themselves in danger areas, not risk injury going into the playoffs. Right now they lost Bogosian, they lost Hyman. They expect Hyman to be back before the beginning of the playoffs. They can't lose a key player. So I think maybe they're going to play a little carefully. But, sometimes when you do that, maybe you take the foot off the gas pedal, and then it's tough to get the engine revving again for the start of the playoffs. So it's a delicate balance, but I do think that they're going to try some load management over the last couple weeks of the season.
If you're watching us on StreamYard right now through YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the podcast, hit the subscribe button. Please do that for us right now. We will be on all of the podcast platforms later today. So the Maple Leafs are a trendy team. They win a bunch, they lose. They win a bunch more, they lose for a while. Right now they're winning a bunch. Are we to expect that this team is going to lose a few to end the regular season and then mount up for the playoffs? Or do you feel like, look, when the 56 are done, they start anew in the postseason, and based on everything that's been talked about of late, with Thornton getting geeked up and Matthews and Marner knowing what's at stake this time and all of the veterans coming in, that we won't have to worry about the team either being on a downward trend or an upward trend when the playoffs begin. It's just a new season, and this team will be ready to rock.
Well, ideally, that will be the case, but I do think that that is one of the main reasons for concern going into this postseason, is the fact that over the last 2 months they've been sort of up and down, chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Win 9 of 10, lose 6 of 7, lose 5 in a row, win
Mm-hmm.
5. It's like, I mean, what you strive for is consistency, and so far, the last few months they haven't been consistent. Now you can blame that on the absence of Freddie Anderson and the stability in net. They've had to play Michael Hutchinson a lot more than they ever thought they were going to have to, and Jack Campbell has been struggling through injuries. So, and there are factors there, but I do think that maybe the fact that this team has a lot more experience than Leafs teams of the past is a reason to feel comfortable that when the playoffs start, these players are going to show up because they know what they need to do to win.
Yeah, and over this next week and a bit, as the Scotia North playoff 4 sorts itself out, I don't know if we should be too fearful of. Sure, matchups are matchups, and which matchup do you want to tackle first, and then which matchup do you believe makes sense in the second round if you get there. But based on what we know about the Leafs and the rest of the division, and the fact that the Leafs are 9 points ahead of the rest of the pack right now, on paper, the Leafs are better than the rest in this Canadian group. Should we really be overly fearful of who the Leafs play, believing like we do that they really should be crossing the border into a semifinal situation? Should we not just kind of sit back and enjoy how everything sorts itself out? Because look, teams are still jockeying for playoff position, and teams like the Habs don't want to face the Leafs in the first round. And for as much as we think that the Jets are going to pose the Leafs a considerable challenge in the first round, I don't think the Jets want to play the Leafs in the first round. Should we? I mean, I know we're thinking of the past, and the Leafs have been bitten, and they've been favored, and then they lose, and then they take on Mount Boston, and they can't conquer it. Shouldn't we have a bit of an air of confidence and expectation, knowing what we know about this team and knowing what we know about the rest of the division, or is that just foolhardy?
Should we have confidence? No. No, because we've seen too many examples of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like, I mean, it's common sense. Who do you want to play in the first round? The easiest opponent you can face. Now, Montreal's not going to be easy. Winnipeg's not going to be easy.
None of them are going to be easy.
None of them are going to be easy, but Winnipeg is going to be less easy than Montreal. And here, I'll click off the reasons why. Right, first one is Connor Hellebuyck, who's a Vezina Trophy winner. He is going to be, he is better than Carey Price, who is out with a concussion right now. But if Carey Price is healthy, then Carey Price will. But that's a big question mark.
Mm-hmm.
It will be a tough hurdle to get over. I think Montreal's defense is much better than Winnipeg's, with Weber and Sherratt and Edmondson and Petrie. I don't think Winnipeg's defense is bad with Pionk and Morrissey, but they're not as good as Montreal. But Winnipeg's forwards are much better than Montreal. They can score. They're deep at 3 lines. Ehlers is supposed to be back for the playoffs. He's been a Leaf killer this year. And they have the ability to match up 2 centers in Scheifele and Dubois against Varas and Matthews that nobody else in the division, unless Edmonton splits up Draisaitl and McDavid, nobody else can do. So each one poses a different problem, but I would look at Winnipeg as the more difficult first round match, no matter how they're playing. And that's why, not to say that the Leafs are going to steer the ship towards the Canadians, but if it ends up that way, I think they would, in their heart of hearts, I think they would rather play the Canadians, and I think their fan base would rather play the Canadians and then beat the Canadians and then beat Habs fans over the head with it for the first time in 42 years.
For you, Mike, it's more than just the need to win a series and move on. This is an emotional thing. This is a traditional thing. This is about exercising, demons that have, always been there, based on the Leafs and the Habs having not played in the playoffs for decades, and this is an opportunity. It appears it's going to happen. My fear, if I had any, and I've still, I don't know. I was telling my son yesterday. I'm like that. This could be the year, my friend. And you've been on this planet for 9 years, and you've had a 9-year wait. If the Leafs win the Stanley Cup this year, I've had a 45-year wait, and others have come and gone and not seen the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. But the thing you have to be aware of and prepared for is your opponents go in that second round, if you do get there, generating their own momentum. So if Winnipeg is having some issues right now and they backdoor into the playoffs and the Leafs catch them flat-footed, they can finish them off for good. And then Paul Maurice and the guys can go, what the hell kind of season was this? We thought it was going somewhere, and then it flatlined, and then we just dropped off. Whereas, you knock them down, drag them out with Montreal. It's emotional. For some reason, the Habs take it to 7, and then the Leafs take on a Jets team that's found its feet and found its game again. And man, that's that really tough showdown that we were all expecting with the Jets comes at a time when the Leafs are a little exasperated, and Winnipeg is back on a run. These are things you can forecast, but also can't forecast, because you don't know what the hell really is going to transpire. In the meantime, the Leafs have 3 with the Habs. It's just a shitload of games with them, and then they probably will take them on 5 to 7 in the playoffs here in the next month. Just want to go through some of the chat. Just some shout outs to a few of the OGs here. Andrew Walters is here. Bird watching life. BWL baby, love it. Be skinny. Eddie Papp, thanks for all the shout outs on Twitter, man. You Mr. Popularity on social media there, always giving the combo some love on the Twitter sphere. So Eddie, thank you very much for that. NASCAR 427 is in the house too. And hey, StreamYard, the StreamYard duck is here too. So Mike, that's pretty remarkable. We're going to get a couple of questions from the YouTube channel, the community portion of the platform here in a couple of seconds. Austin Matthews, 38 goals. Him and Marner are everything, right? And he's going to hit 40, and that what a plateau to reach in a shortened season. You can imagine if he's healthy over an 82 game frame, that's 60.
Yeah, I think they said right now for an 82 game, it would be 66 goals he's on a pace for, which is, it's incredible. He's playing fantastic. There's no, knock on wood, there's no issue right now with his wrist, obviously, the way he's shooting. But it just seems that, the puck ends up on his stick and then it ends up in the net, and it's almost like you blink and it's already past the goalie. It's just, he's on a hot streak right now. And believe me, you want him going into the playoffs on this hot streak. Somebody, well, he's peaking too early. What are you supposed to do? Tell him not to score? He wants to win the Rocket, Richard. Okay. So he's got I think an 8 or 9 goal lead on McDavid, and McDavid's playing Vancouver, I think 4 or 5 times. So, that lead might not be safe. He wants to win the Rocket, Richard, but also he wants to win in the playoffs. That's the one thing that's been missing from Austin Matthews so far. And I think, the fact that they've surrounded him with veteran players who are going to help him with that goal. I mean, yeah. I mean, him and Marner, it's sort of unconscious right now, where they're finding each other. And as I said to you before the show, yeah, it really looks good that Mike Babcock didn't want to play them together. I mean,
imagine that. Suggesting Austin Matthews is peaking. You don't peak when you're a star of this magnitude. You peak every game. Did Gretzky peak when he had a 215-point season? Like, when was his peak? You don't peak. You rise to the top and you stay there. You don't peak when you're on pace for a 67-goal season. There's no peaking. What is he talking about? And how old is he? 22, 23? 23. You're not peaking. Anyway.
But let's just say this. I mean, and then this is the only concern. When he slowed down was when he had the problems with his wrist. And and that's
no one's invincible.
Right. And that's the only concern. It's like, okay, keep him healthy. Keep him. Yeah. So right now everything is going great, and he's scoring goals, and he's virtually unstoppable. We hope to see that in the playoffs, because that'll be extremely entertaining.
Why would it change? After
because the playoffs are a different game. It is. It's like right now you can go, footloose and fancy free, and you can score a bunch of goals.
Is that our nicknames?
Yeah,
footloose and fancy free.
Yeah, I'm footloose. I'm Kevin. But this is the problem. Yeah, everybody knows the game changes when the playoffs come, and he is not going to get as many open opportunities as he has during the regular season, especially against a tired team like Vancouver, or against a team that's that's in a slump like Winnipeg. I mean, Montreal, they're going to try to beat people up, and they're going to try to win games 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to slash, and they're going to hack, and but that's not exclusive to them. That's going to be every team. Every team is going to step it up physically. Every team is going to step it up defensively. It's not realistic to expect Matthews to score at a goal per game pace.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, is he going to get opportunities? Yes, because he's one of the best players in the league. But to expect him to score at the rate that he's scoring right now is not realistic. And they're not going to score as many goals as they're scoring right now. And Enzo in the chat saying he's not open. He scores in high danger areas with guys on him. Yeah, but it'll be even more. It'll be more close contact. It'll be more suffocating. He won't get as many scoring chances as he's doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just reality.
Yeah. It all feels like an exhibition at this point.
In a way it is.
Well, Matthews scoring like he's a circus act, and us seeing the same 6 teams over and over again, it's become redundant and repetitive and really, really boring. So it's time to ramp things up a little bit. But regardless of the circumstances and how this season compares to seasons of the past and seasons to come, there is a beautiful trophy that awaits one of the 31 teams right now. And the Leafs you'd have to consider them among the 5-6 favorites at this point to win the damn thing. Just going through some of the standings, and you're looking at Florida's, the Islanders, Vegas, Colorado, Pittsburgh. We're very focused on the Canadian division because that's all we've seen, and we're focused on the Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
But and we can have these conversations down the line. We've got to continue on here. We've got a lot of stuff to cover in a short time to do it. But we're very Leaf centric, and that's what we're about, and that's fine. But there are other really good teams in this league too that we don't get a chance to see because of the way things have been configured. And we can talk about how great we are all we want, and we can hype and gin things up. But man, oh man, we may not like what's waiting for us on the other side of that.
Well, okay. And I talked about this last night on the Leaf Talk Twitter Spaces show that I do after some of the games. You look at the other divisions, and in a way, and this might be counterintuitive, the Leafs may have more in the tank, may have more left in the tank.
Because they've been beating up on these teams.
Well, no, based on, everybody says the North Division is the weakest division. Okay, let's accept that as a fact. Okay, fine. Okay, so say they have to beat Montreal and Winnipeg, or Montreal and Edmonton, or Edmonton and Winnipeg to get through to the semifinals. Look at the East. The 4 playoff teams are Boston, Pittsburgh, Washington, and the Islanders. They will beat the crap out of each other. Those are playoff-tested, hardened teams. Look at the Central, where you have Carolina on top. You have Florida facing Tampa in the first round, more than likely. Dallas, who made the Cup final last year, if they get past Nashville, that's the matchup for Carolina in the first round. And then the winners of those first round matchups play each other in the second round. And then in the West, let's see, Vegas versus Colorado in the second round. 2 of the 3 or 4 best teams in the league facing each other, and it's not even the semifinals. So you could say, the Leafs might not be as good as some of those teams, but those teams might be beating the crap out of each other. And who will be left when these teams face each other in the semifinals? That'll be the interesting question.
Hey, Silent Polls wants to see Boston eventually.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Nobody wants to see that. But honestly, the one thing, this team is experienced enough where I don't think the phobia of playing Boston will affect them. But Boston is still Boston.
Yeah.
They don't have Chara anymore, so maybe they're not as scary. But Boston is still Boston.
The ghosts of series past are lingering to haunt this Leafs team. But the Leafs also have an opportunity to exercise those demons. The Habs demons, playoff failure. This is an opportunity for the Maple Leafs, or at least to come for the Maple Leafs to right all those wrongs and to start fresh and go on a long run. And we don't know what the hell is going to happen when the Canadian group meet up with the American group, because they haven't seen each other. But on the flip side, who knows? These teams in the United States may not be prepared for what guys like Matthews and Marner and Tavares and Nylander and Foligno and all these dudes are about to bring them. Like, for as weak as this Canadian division appears to be, the Leafs might be a team that's so far apart of the rest of this division that if you were to situate them in with all these American teams, it wouldn't be that much of a difference.
The dynamic, it's funny because, we're both big baseball fans. The dynamic of before interleague of an American League team playing a National League team in the World Series is always part of that was a team that never saw each other the entire season, seeing each other. And that dynamic is going to play out. Now, even in a regular season, they would only play these teams one home, one away, or something like that. So, but at least you would have played against them. And in this instance, you're probably going to see a adjustment period in a 7-game series because these teams haven't played against each other. Now just to mention a couple things before we take the questions. Elliot Friedman mentioned yesterday that it's still up in the air whether the Canadian government will allow an American team into Canada for the semifinals. So, knock on wood, based on the rate of COVID going down in Ontario and people starting to get vaccinated, maybe by June that will be possible, and we won't have to have the Leafs or the Oilers, whoever, playing in Detroit or Buffalo. That won't be necessary. Mm-hmm. The other thing is the injury update. Zach Hyman and Riley Nash both skated this week, so that's encouraging that at least with Hyman, that they'll get him back before the end of the regular season. Nash, I get the feeling, he'll be available, but they're not going to start a player in the playoffs who has never played a game for the Leafs until, maybe they lose a game and then he comes in. But I think they're going to go with the guys that they go with, that they've had on the roster. before they insert him in the lineup. And the other Zach Bogosian has not skated yet. We're only 2 weeks away from the playoffs, and they said a minimum of 4 weeks. I get the feeling it's something like a separated shoulder, so it's going to be, I think he probably will come back at some point in the first round, but not right away. And Friedman mentioned this is a big week for Freddie Anderson in terms of him ramping up towards getting back in the lineup. I don't believe right now, as currently constructed, the Leafs can bring him back off of LTIR, so they may resort to a 3-game conditioning stint in the American Hockey League. But I'm of the opinion, Norm, and let me get your opinion on this. I don't care if Freddie Anderson plays 2 or 3 games at the end of the season. I don't care if he's lights out, stands on his head with the Marlies. My goalie for game 1 is Jack Campbell.
Yeah, I think he's earned it. Freddie Anderson has his place with this organization for now, and he is he has been an integral part of this group, progressing to this part of the development of the overall organization. But with Anderson having his physical challenges and whatever else, and then him being out of the mix, Jack Campbell has taken the mantle and has done well. And I think it's not only about him being given the opportunity based on him being there. He's just the guy. He's the guy. And with Freddie coming back potentially in the playoffs at some point to off-spell Campbell, there's a danger in that in not having given Freddie enough of an opportunity to find his legs. You're kind of dropping him into a situation where it's like, oh, hey, next goal loses.
And I think that's the big factor. I mean, consider it psychologically. Game 1, the Leafs put Freddie Anderson in there after not having played an NHL game in almost 2 months. And he doesn't do well. And you can't really blame him because he's rusty, because he's only played against AHL competition. Okay. So they lose a couple games and they decide, okay, we're going to Jack Campbell. Well, I have, say it. It's once they do that, then you can't put Freddie Anderson back in the goal. Mm-hmm. Whereas if Jack Campbell right now, he's 15-2-1. If you start the playoffs with him and he wins, then you stay with him. And if he doesn't win, then all of a sudden Freddie Anderson is that, is Johnny Unitas in Super Bowl III coming off the bench when Earl Morrall couldn't do anything against the Jets. What I'm saying, or Jeff Hostetler against in the playoffs for the. I'm using football analogies, but what I'm saying is to have somebody to come in who has been your starter, if Campbell falters, I mean, I think psychologically that's a better way to go.
Mm-hmm. No, well, start with Campbell. My only thing about Freddie is will he be ready? However, what's the alternative? David Rittich?
Well, I mean, at least
Michael Hutchinson, is he the guy who's just like, wow, I know Hutchinson's played deeper in the playoffs than the group that he's playing for right now. Of late, right?
I would rather have a healthy David Rittich as the backup to Jack Campbell than the 90% Freddie, because 90% Freddie we saw in March cannot play up to expectations.
Who do you think Sheldon Keefe wants?
I think he wants Jack Campbell.
Of course he wants Jack. Who would he want as his backup?
I think he'd want Anderson. He doesn't trust Rittich.
Yeah, I know. And we're going to get to questions in the community here because we have a few relating to Adam Brooks. So Jugs, 1X, Norman, Mike, what about Adam Brooks? I think they keep him in too. Benny B thinks Adam Brooks is really refreshing. He's picking up points, 24 years old, just wide-eyed, having a blast, plays his ass off. Adam, given an opportunity, that's the kind of guy who just leaves it all out there. What else does he have to lose?
Adam Brooks is the prototype of the prototypical success story of the Leafs in terms of a developmental model. A draft pick, I think he was a 4th-round pick. Scored a bazillion points with Regina in the WHL, I believe. Has served his penance down in the American Hockey League. Was part of a great 4th line on that Calder Cup winning team. And when he's been given an opportunity, he has played well in the NHL. And he hasn't been given much of an opportunity, but now he's playing in between, 2 Hall of Famers in Thornton and Spezza, and he's fit in well. Now, I think he's going to get a chance to start in the playoffs based on the way he's played. He's got 4 goals in 8 games. But if he falters or if he's not up to it at this point, he's still a young player, then that's why they have Riley Nash. But it's a great success story, and I think Adam Brooks has earned himself a protection in the expansion draft.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, he's a guy who I would say you'd pencil in as your 4th-line center next season.
Mm-hmm. And we have to remind ourselves, again, because it's not like as a fan base we're that used to long playoff runs, but at some point it's a revolving door of players in and out of the lineup based on injury. It's a war of attrition, and I don't use that word lightly more, but it's true. It's like, well, hey, here's how we're gonna line it up. Game 1 of the first round is a long way from game 6 and 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. The roster may look not entirely different, but look different if you make it that far. And guys like Adam Brooks, who may not draw in to start, become folk heroes by the end of the run.
It's a nice problem to have when you can say, okay, well, Zach Hyman comes in, who do you sit?
Mm-hmm.
And, it's nice to have Riley Nash and Pierre Engvall and Adam Brooks and Alex Galchenyuk in the mix in terms of that 11th or 12th forward. And it's good to have Sandin and Hutton and anybody other than somebody named Marinson on the blue line. So,
Mike, you just can't stop bringing up Martin Marinson.
No, because the nightmare for Leafs Nation is that guy showing up on the roster in the playoffs and costing them a game like he has cost them games before.
I think Sheldon Keefe is beyond astute, and when it comes to what he wants to do versus what he's hearing he should do from people who really need to look at doing something else. Zach Hyman, where does our friend Arish, a huge supporter of the Convo, wants to know where Zach Hyman slots in? Not only when they drop him back in the lineup to give him the feels again, but when he is implanted and integral, where does he slot in?
I think he slots in. I think the plan is, and the whole plan when they acquired Nick Foligno was that Hyman would play on the 3rd line, because on the 3rd line with Kerfoot and either Mikheyev or Simmons, it lengthens the Leafs lineup. We know he works with Marner and Matthews, but so does Foligno. We know he could work with Tavares and Nylander, but right now Galchenyuk is providing them pretty decent play. Mm-hmm. So it gives them options, but I think we saw when Hyman played on that 3rd line with Engvall and with Mikheyev in that 3-game series against Edmonton and how dominant they were, that there is the slot where he can make the most difference as a penalty killer on the 2nd power play, as a matchup guy against opposition's top forwards, but on the 3rd line is where he makes the most impact. So I think that's where he's going to be.
Andrew Walters, Freddie, game 1 if he's healthy. Wow. Severino, Cudicillo. Good morning, Norman. Mike, let's forget Freddie. He's the past. When we've needed to save from him, Freddie's nowhere to be found. That's the thing there, Severino. We don't know at this point whether Freddie is the past or if he is in the future, if he is integral to the future. This isn't just about the first round. It's you go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a long grind.
Yeah,
and just don't know who's going to start. Guys like Jumbo Joe could 3 goals in the opener, get hurt in the second game, and that's his career. We don't know. This has to be a collective. Everybody's got to be all hands on deck.
And Severino, this is the thing, and I will to my dying day defend Freddie Anderson for his first 4 years in Toronto. He was not the problem when they lost to Washington. He was not the problem when they lost to Columbus. The Leafs couldn't score against Columbus. That's the reason they lost that series. And in the 2 seasons that he played against Boston, he played 66 and 60 games with a defense that sucked. That was terrible. This year would be the first year that he actually has a representative defense playing in front of him that could limit opportunities. So if he is healthy and he does play, I think he could have success. But I'm just saying the guy who's more deserving of getting the start in the playoffs is the guy who's 15-2-1 right now.
You brought up the defense, and isn't it ironic the year that Freddie isn't as important to the team is the year the group in front of him is at its most competent?
Some goaltenders are better when they're busy. So when they're facing Roberto Luongo for years, when he played in Florida early in his career and facing 40 shots a night, he was better than when he was playing at times in Vancouver when Vancouver was limiting shots to 18, 19 shots. Some goaltenders like to be busy. Some goaltenders don't. Like Marty Brodeur, he could show up when and make big saves. He was making 18 saves a night. It all depends on the goalie.
The Leafs are among the best teams in the league for goals against. So obviously there's credit to the goaltending for that, but also credit to this defensive group that is just like, we don't talk about the defense in the same way we have spoken about and lamented and whined and cried about defenses year after, year prior, right? Right now, we're talking about how could this team can be configured to elevate its status to greatness. We're not keeping our fingers crossed that Martin Marincin can hold down the fort for a little bit while Morgan Rielly plays incredible defense, but is there to quarterback a power play and eat up minutes. We don't even talk about guys like TJ Brodie, who's played 24 minutes last night, just a quiet 24 minutes, a goal and 12 assists on the season. Just quietly goes about his business. This in and of itself is quite refreshing. And this right here, this might be at its core why this is the reason at its core why the Leafs might be able to take that next step and progress it in the playoffs, because this defense, at least to this point, appears just sound enough to get the job done. A few more points and we'll get out of here.
I think that Sheldon...
Add in Rasmus Sandin now too.
Yeah, I think Sheldon Keefe has not been given the credit that he should have for the way this team is played, because the way the team is playing now at the NHL level is the way the Marlies dominated at the AHL level. And, now he's been given a lot of talent, but I think he's, accentuated that talent with a system that the team has played, and I think with better sort of interpersonal relations with his players, and I think it's worked. Now, again, he's 0-1 in the playoffs, so he's a second-year coach, so there's a lot still in front of him. But I think the group has matured. You can tell that this group likes each other. And that they have each other's backs, like we saw with Wayne Simmons tuning up Alex Edler on Thursday. But all that's great, but does that mean they're going to win? It doesn't. They have to show up at the right time, which is in a couple weeks when the playoffs start, and perform. And if they do that, there's enough talent there that this team can make a run. And if they don't, then Kyle Dubas is going to have to reevaluate where this franchise is.
Mil-Spec Mom, no wonder I miss you guys. Live 9 a.m. on Sunday. Hey from the Schwago Leafs Go XOXO. Back at you there, Mil-Spec Mom. Thank you very much. We'll try to go earlier next week. I'm finding that we're bringing in more people as the day grows longer. Maybe we should push back our start time to like 10 o'clock and we'll have a...
People get busy on Sunday. They got to do their laundry. They got to go do their errands. That's what happens.
Yeah, well, yeah. What are we, a couple of old coots up and at them like at the crack of dawn on a Sunday?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Timberwolf, speaking of old coots, he's just lighting up the comments. Timberwolf, yeah, you're the man. OG Convert, thank you very much. Yeah, we should probably put a bow on this one, Mike. Any last thoughts? I mean, I don't want to get too deep into, who are your 7D? What are your playoff lineup? Like, we've still got 5 games to go. Yeah. The Leafs could be 0-5 going into the playoffs, and we're like, what the fuck are we gonna do now, right?
Yeah, let's save that for the combos before the playoffs. I'll just say one thing, and it was interesting. Nick Robertson got sent down to the Marlies, along with Martin Marincin. Hopefully, he stays there. But the reason that Nick Robertson got sent down to the Marlies is Nick Robertson has played 6 NHL games, and if he played the 7th, he would burn the first year of his entry-level contract. Don't think that wasn't in the thought process of Kyle Dubas, because they're going to need Nick Robertson over the next couple of years as a scoring forward, and to have him at making less than $900,000 is going to be beneficial, and burning a year simply for burning a year is not a smart thing. So
they don't need Nick Robertson's not the straw that's going to stir this drink.
No, he's a good young talented player who I think will benefit. The Marlies played 13 games in the last 20 days before the AHL season ends. So he gets a lot of work. He didn't have an OHL season this year, and then he'll be 20 next year, 20 next September, and he can play a full year in the American Hockey League, or he can make the NHL. But I think it's beneficial for him and beneficial for the Leafs that he plays down with the Marlies.
Mm-hmm. OG's Converts continue the conversation in this post, below the post on YouTube, and hit the subscribe button while you're on the channel. We appreciate all of the support. Without you guys, Mike and I are just here by ourselves, a couple of old coots talking about how great things used to be. Instead, you guys propel us forward. Milspec, you're 44. Guess what? This is my last day as a 44-year-old. Yes, I will be turning 45 tomorrow. I never reveal that I'm about to have a birthday, but I want to be showered with birthday wishes. Maybe it's my old age. I don't know how many I have left. So
he wants to be showered with praise.
Praise? I don't know. Actually, why not? For one day, sure, I'll be showered with praise. It's a nice contrast to what I'm usually enduring. Don't forget our sponsor guy, OakRidgeFord.com. They're putting a bit of a hold on trucks. So we've got lots of escapes at 0% interest and all kinds of used cars. I know, here it comes. Oh, I'm going to start crying. Mike, I have kids to hang out with and a wife who has a bunch of things for me to do today. So I'm going to get after that. And you enjoy your day in Buffalo, New York. I'm hoping pandemic-wise, we're on our way to better days. I'd like to be able to get everybody out and about. And maybe one day, Mike, we could do a live show from the dealership.
Yeah, that would be great.
And I can, on your way out, I'll have you sign a bill of sale for a $95,000.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
OG's Converts, thank you very much. Have a good one.